Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to week 6, day 6 of the LPL here in spring 2018. My name is Richard Pauls Cam. I'm going to be joined by Barento Raz Mohammed. How are you, Raz? You've got your own intro song today.
Oh, there we are. Not anymore.
Cut the tape.
Just a little bit sadder after that. But no, it's a great day. We have match of the week later on, of course. And to top it off, I just love the games today. Every game seems to be the good ones.
Lots of bunch of good matches coming up today, including our match of the week to end out the week 6. But let's go ahead and take a look at the standings and how the league is shaping up as we start to come to a close in Cost Conference. It still will be end of the week of that, but not too much longer. And you can see that Snake has definitely benefited, being 8-2 in the Western Conference, closely followed by EDG and WE, both at 7 wins apiece. And Invictus Gaming on the opposite side, still leading strong on a 10-series winning streak in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and for me, the biggest story is the fact that the Western Conference is starting to reach the expectation that we held for it. WE is starting to play much better, and that's what really kind of felt off for us, was that EDG were doing great. Sure, Snake was a great surprise, but WE weren't really playing too well, and that's kind of shored itself up.
It has over the last couple of weeks in cross-conference play. But you said you're excited, Raz, for today's matches, and you definitely should be. We'll be starting off the day in the Snake Pit in Chongqing, with Snake going up against TOP. We'll see if they can escape alive, and we'll be ending the day with EDG against RNG and our very own Shanghai Arena for our match of the week.
Yep, you've already said it. Match of the week, EDG, RNG. That in and of itself, you should just be sticking your eyes towards the screen, because you know what? You don't want to miss a damn thing.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure to get all your snacks and be prepared. Sit down. Do not leave your seat for the entirety of that series. It will be a banger, Raz, but let's go ahead and take a look at our first series of the day, which will be Snake versus TOP. Now, I feel like I'm going to start this one off on talking about some interesting item builds, because you know me, I'm always a fan of top lane, and even a bigger fan of top lane item builds. So take me through that Shen that we saw the other day from FLICKR.
Ah, yes. Top lane cheese builds. I know you love them, and I'm going to start it off by saying Kleptomancy, Shen. Question mark? Why is this happening? It's only really happening in the LPL because FLICKR decides that his counter pick into tanks is going to be Shen. He picks up Kleptomancy, starts off with Relic Shield, so he gets the benefit, of course, of the Kleptomancy procs every single time he sends out the auto attacks, and of course, the Bandit procs from Relic Shield. The biggest thing for me, of course, is that he actually fully upgrades the Relic Shields into Targons, then into the Remnant of the Aspect, which for me, big surprise on that. The reason for it is that it's incredibly gold efficient, 115% gold efficiency based off that, and it has 500 HP in 8.2, which is the third highest HP you can actually get if it's not an Orin upgrade for that. So of course there's Warmogs, and then there's Frozen Mallet, and then there's legitimately the support full item. So that's why he goes towards that. And then of course he just decides that he's going to go Banner of Command or the Zerat's Portal, and then to cap it off, just to be able to consistently send out that split push pressure, it's the Trinity Force.
Yeah, and of course we do need to keep our eye on that. However, we are now on 8.4, so there has been changes to the Resolve tree. Now we're pretty much seeing everyone take bone plating, so that will also change up there as well. And also in terms of the items, as you said, the Remnant item has had its HP knocked off by 150, so there is a slight change coming into 8.4.
Yeah, so some people have actually taken that build and they've improved upon it and played on 8.4. I would say immediately going towards the NA Challenger scene, we've seen Brandini go towards the same idea, but he just left it at the Targon's Brace. He didn't upgrade it just because even though it's still an efficient upgrade, it doesn't stand up to any of the regular tank items once you get towards the 30-minute mark.
And today he'll be facing down Marin, who is on TOP. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's going to be pretty difficult to pick up that Shen if you're going to face a potential Renekton, which is what we saw last time from Marin. He was even sporting his own SKT skin when we saw that last week.
Yeah, so he's not going to be going up against tank picks because both of these players love to look towards counter picks. So I'm going to be surprised, or at least I'm going to be looking towards what they're willing to blind pick. You've already seen in the recently played. Seems like it's going to be the Gnar that they both go towards. What XPD stands for is the experience differential within the lane. So a lot of the focus is going to be towards the top lane, how they're going to be, I would say, supported through their style. You see the Renekton because we haven't seen Renekton anywhere else in the world. And when Marin brought it up out against OMG, he went towards Spellbook, Ignite Flash in the early laning phase, so he of course can just swap out towards teleport when he's needed, but in the lane, he's able to just constantly skirmish up against his opponent.
And in fact, the entire team took Spellbook in that game.
That's
Every
true.
single member had Spellbook as their keystone. And also TOP now, in the last couple of weeks, now that they have had Marin, have multiple ways now to add to their strategy, to add to their playbook, and that's actually improved them significantly. You know, TOP, yes, they're still at the bottom, they're still 2-9 in the Eastern Conference, but they have looked significantly better with the influence of Marin into their team.
Yeah, exactly. When we first saw them come out of the Chinese New Year's and brought out Marin, it felt like that Marin was a little bit disconnected, very naturally, of course. A Korean player coming onto a Chinese team in his first week, so I was like, what did you really expect? But we personally didn't expect the growth that we really saw, because on the non-broadcast day when TOP went up against OMG, it felt like their vision control was a lot smarter, a lot better, and Marin wasn't just stuck on the side lane. In fact, he was constantly roaming towards the mid lane where XX was being played, where Goong was on the roster. So finally we were able to see Marin get utilized along with Goong, so they were a lot more active as a team. So even though they're going up against the first place team in the West, I do expect a challenge here tonight.
Exactly. It may not just be the simple 2-0 that we were expecting maybe in previous weeks if you look towards Snake and TOP. However, at the same time, you have to look at the jungle. You already mentioned him, XX, but he'll be facing down one of the better junglers in the league, and we're about to see him in a second as we take a look at the lineup for Snake, Flandre, and I was just talking about SFM in the jungle with Guogo in the mid lane, Crystal, and Hootie.
Yep, this team has been tearing it up in the Snake Pit. Any team that goes in, you might get close. You might be able to get to game 3, but you're not going to run out with a victory.
Yeah, very few survivors getting out of the Snake Pit. FPX was one of them, but only very early on in the split. Raz, and take a look at the opposite side, it will be TOP with Marin in the top lane, XX in the jungle, Goong in the mid lane with Choo Choo, or rather I should say Cho-Cho, and Cat in the bottom lane.
Of course, and now, of course, they are at the bottom of the barrel in the Eastern Conference, but a lot of that has been, of course, of the beginning of the split. So I want to see how much growth have they really had. I already talked about the last set they have, but is it enough to finally challenge Snake on this specific day?
That is the question, because to draw it back to the jungle as well, you know, XX is going to have his work cut out for him. SOFM, we've seen what he can do when he's basically locked in the jungle, when he's allowed to just take everything he wants in the jungle, and if lanes aren't going to help, then it's going to be a very sad state of affairs.
Yep, because ultimately in this set, it does come towards the jungle mid lane synergy, a lot of it, just because Guoguo and SOFM have been working so damn well together that even though we really talked up Marin, a lot of it is him looking towards his own jungle and him looking towards Goong, and if they can set them on the right path.
Exactly, and because it is 8.4, there's even greater importance on that 2v2 in the mid lane. Let's see how it pans out, as we are going to send it over to our casters to get us into game 1.
Thank you for keeping your eyes peeled to the screen, because we're ready now to get into our first set, TOP versus Snake. Welcome, everyone. I'm Dom. We've got Frosk here with me for this wonderful journey that we're about to go on into the Snake Pit once again and see, will somebody else be able to break out the antidote that can free them from this poison? So far, only 2 teams, Invictus Gaming and FPX, have been able to beat Snake in their home arena, and TOP... I really hope they've got a bottle of that antidote, because they're going to need it.
Yeah, and it's about redefining the new skill ceiling for TOP as they start to integrate the top laner like Marin. Yes, we have seen a huge spike for them in recent performance. It has also been a revolving door. Who's playing in the jungle? Who's playing in the mid lane? Because unfortunately, they're then strained by that 2 import rule. If they want to play Marin on the top side, that means that they either need to take their Korean import slot in the mid lane or their Korean import slot in the jungle. The issue is that Karin is the stronger of the 2 junglers between him and XX, but Goon is the stronger of the mid laners between him and Korn. So it's kind of been this musical chairs almost for their roster to find that secret component of success for TOP.
Well, today we see them starting with XX in this matchup, so perhaps an opportunity to see how TOP try to play around that style, because as right now it is so important that mid-jungle duo is so powerful in the 8.4 patch, and XX and Goong, maybe they could have a head start in this one.
Yeah, and it's not just the 8.4 patch, it's also the fact that TOP went on the record saying that Goon is pretty much their mascot. Before Marin really joined the roster, everything was built around him, so he is pivotal and instrumental to that team when they do find these glimpses of success. And speaking of 8.4, Dom, we've done it. We've got the Baron changes. This should be the perfect patch for TOP, because previously when they were known as Dan Gaming back in 2017, their one gimmick was 20-minute Baron rush every single time. And a lot of LPL teams fall for this trick. TOP are in a very similar vein. They like to play the same style, and Baron's that much stronger this time around.
Yeah, they were damn good at that strategy as well. The question is, do they return to the tried and true, the classic, or do they continue to try playing something new with XX and Gung? We're certainly going to find out as this is their first game here on patch 8.4. Already, Talia, Scion, and that Xayah band away. Gangplank and Rise on the other side.
And what's interesting is when teams face Snake in draft, probably the strongest draft against Snake Gaming, again, they are 8-2, top of the table for the Western Conference, was Invictus Gaming. And Invictus Gaming threw a bunch of wrenches at SOFM in particular. There are 5 jungle bans. That said, because it's TOP, they are trying to get the best possible matchup for Marn up into the top side, and instead expend 2 bans on top very early on.
Already the Vladimir locked in for Flandre on that top half. Marin now knows that's probably going up towards the top. We'll see. I could be flexed towards the mid lane. So we'll see how this works out, but TOP, they've still got all the time in the world if they want to prioritize Chocho, if they want to prioritize XX or Gung, which it appears that's what they're going for so far, as Olaf is locked in.
Okay, so interesting. We haven't seen SOFM go towards the Olaf at all. We have had very few Olafs in the LPL. It took us a while to switch over to 8.4. We completely skipped 8.3. That said, SOFM does feel very comfortable on champions like Jarvan, Sejuani. He also has 2 games on Skarner before the big Skarner changes came out, so I expect he'll probably go that route.
Ooh, now a Tristana locked in for Chocho in the bottom lane. Something with a bit of safety, but even more exciting, something with a very early turret take. And on patch 8.4, that's a very powerful way to unlock that support, which especially has more strength with the lack of Tracker's Knife coming out of the jungle.
The difficulty is trying to match Snake in early lane phases, because they are a team that are defined by their jungler and SOFM, and the thing is, you cannot stop SOFM. You can maybe contain him, but he is going to run rampant whether you like it or not, and that makes Snake very terrifying in lane phase, especially now as the dynamic has shifted on 8.4, giving junglers more priority over ganking paths. So yeah, if they go for an early turret take, maybe they just want to unlock the lane, start moving around the map to try to avoid that, but it's still going to be very risky to be that far forward in the lane, sieging that tower with SOFM lurking.
And look at the response. Guoguo takes Galio in the mid lane. All right, if you want to unlock the support so that he's enabled to roam with your jungler with that early turret take, why don't we just get the hero's entrance? Turn any 1v2 into a 2v2, or perhaps even more, depending on the use of Unsealed Spellbook to get even more people to teleport in there. Still, though, that means that SOFM's jungle pick will fall down the roster just a bit, as that's also a Leona for Cat. Tristana Leona never stand still against that lane.
Exactly, and it's trying to apply pressure to Crystal on the Varus. Should be noted that Snake's new quote-unquote prodigy ADC Light has finally turned of age. Crystal was actually nervous. He said in an interview he wanted to upgrade his teamwork capacity with this team because he felt like Light was mechanically stronger than him. So there is always that back pocket to Snake that with this current roster, they could continue to level it up in an individual way.
That said, Crystal, a very experienced player with the likes of this team. We've seen him support for the team. We've seen him jungle for the team. And I still remember fondly the days when he would break out that Draven in the bottom lane and just smash his opponents. That said, it's a far cry from a Draven meta, so taking the likes of the Guinsoo's Varus. Now, we did see the Braum ban away from Hudiet to keep Varus safe on that bottom half, and Camille banned away from Flandre? No, banned away from SOFM. Yeah.
Giving more respect to SOFM in the jungle. Again, it's a question. This is the first time we've seen either TOP or Snake on 8.4, so a lot of the picks have changed. You kind of have to throw out all the old expectations that you once had.
Now the final ban is going to be Gung's Kassadin stricken away. So this is where we get to see the show. The card from TOP. They know that Marin likely going to be going up against that Vladimir in the top lane. They decide to prioritize a very big AP carry. If that's Rumble, it is actually locked in here.
And it's not just a Rumble, it's Marin's Rumble. So legacy pick for this guy. He's always been a phenomenal Rumble player up into the top side of the map. He is then assuming that it's the Vladimir matchup. It's not going to be a flex pick. We'll see how it works. They already do have a lot of AD damage, especially because they took Olaf in the jungle, so it balances the comp nicely. And it also gives them a nice bridging point into mid-game. So you have Tristana that can overtake the late game, and then you have Marn who can take over the mid-game.
As a response, we've got a nice headbutt that Alistar locked in for Hudier to attempt to keep Leona off of his carry and perhaps contribute to some roams of his own. But this is the pick that we're all excited for. This is SOFM's chance to pick from the remaining junglers. Something to note, Rek'Sai is still open and still very strong on the current patch. He hovers Lee Sin. All right, there's no Tracker's Knife. He knows there's no Tracker's Knife, and he locks it in. You can hear the crowd in the background. Holy cow, SOFM, look at the cojones on this guy.
Okay, so on 8.4, a lot of analysts globally theorized that it would be the death of Lee Sin. Like you said, Tracker's Knife has been eliminated, which is one of his key components to get around the map utilizing his W. Without that, you don't have the wards in the back pocket. Now, that said, SOFM is a legacy Lee Sin player. This is his stylish pick, and he's also been quite innovative with builds. Athene's Zac comes to mind.
Yes.
So maybe he's got something in the back pocket, or maybe he feels that it doesn't even matter. My Lee Sin's good enough that I don't need to utilize the Tracker's Knife, and now I just have more potential to kill you.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen so many junglers on 8.4 stick with the yellow trinket that will eventually recharge, and of course that cooldown gets lower and lower the later the game gets, but the lack of a sweepers, perhaps SOFM is just going to be utilizing that yellow ward, or just going for the pay-to-win Lee Sin route, which is buying control ward, 75 gold per ward hop.
It could also be a white flag to say that they want to go into the jungle against Olaf, try to catch him out early. Olaf on his initial clear gets relatively very low health. Lee Sin is a dueling-oriented jungler. SOFM very comfortable with the matchup, so it could mean that they're going to use mid lane priority with Galio, get a shove, and then start hunting for XX early on.
Ooh, a way to try to shut down TOP's jungler. Will XX be able to keep his cool against the likes of SOFM as the coaches now go to shake hands and make their way backstage as we get into this game one between Snake, who have found unprecedented momentum so long in the past. We've called them the dark horse, the underdogs, the team that can chase first place but never quite claim it. But now that they've got their own stadium, their own hometown in Chongqing, this newfound energy has turned them into contenders in their own right. One of the best in the LPL.
Yeah, starting to slither up the standings. Best in the Western Conference versus worst in the Eastern Conference, but this will be a gut check. Just how powerful is the East compared to the West? Will Snake, the standing totem for the Western Conference, struggle against TOP and their newfound superstar in Marn?
The pressure is rising for TOP to take more wins if they want to try to get into playoffs. And as cross-conference becomes closer and closer to ending, that time is now as we load onto the Rift for Game 1.
And Dom, you've been in that arena during those cheers. It sounds quite loud to me.
It is absolutely deafening from the Snake fans, especially since they've started to find new success. You can hear some of the TOP fans, but a very large majority are those Snake fans. And the thing that's the coolest is they don't say Snake Jio, Snake fighting. They say Snake Chongqing. And they cheer for the city. This is much more than just a team of 5 players now. This is becoming a community and a culture in its own right within the likes of that city. So to see that pride there and see the fans continue to cheer on their team is absolutely breathtaking. But now Snake find themselves on to the Rift, their first game of patch 8.4, and looking for more momentum. One would look at this and say, okay, this should be an easy win for Snake, but TOP have been on a bit of a rise lately with their last win over OMG. May not just be the speed bump that Snake were expecting.
And I do want to take a quick examination of the keystones, why we do have them on the bottom of your screen. The one that sticks out to me is the Unsealed Spellbook on Azir in particular. Again, 8.4 Unsealed Spellbook was adjusted slightly. You don't normally see it on Azir. He can reach for it in certain instances, but giving a lot of respect to the early crowd control that I guess they feel that Snake are going to bring out. But you look at those champions, I guess it's the taunt from Galio, the Varus ultimate, and that's really about it, just because Alistar has displacements, which are difficult, if not impossible, to cleanse out of. See how it maybe burns him or adjusts him later on down the path.
Yeah, perhaps expecting an early roam or something, or maybe looking for some debuffs to clear off. You just saw on the top of your screen, Snake now have 300 games in the LPL, the 6th most of teams in our league.
And the thing about Snake is that they came in on 2015, and if you remember anything about the LPL in 2015, it was the rise of the Samsung brothers coming over. You had both Samsung White and Blue. Those rosters were cannibalized. They came over into the LPL, and then quietly, Snake were promoted from the LSPL, and no one was looking at them. Why would you? This is a team of a bunch of unknown names. You had all these Korean superstars running around, all these world champions. And then Snake started taking names. They took down EDG the first time they faced them. This was the EDG that won MSI in 2015. They took down LGD, and then just when they got to playoffs, just when they got some international recognition or on the cusp of it, they fell short because they ran into that same EDG and LGD that would eventually go on to win internationally.
Tragically unable to find widespread success since then. Always second place, always third place for Snake. The Team Liquid of the LPL, we like to joke.
Always fourth.
Yeah, and here you can see some of the stats between these top laners. FLICKR and Marin, first and second in CS per minute. And take a look at that damage per minute too. FLICKR at second, Marin at 11th. Just speaking to how important these carries are for their team. And especially now that we're coming into 2018, Snake seems to have redefined themselves from that old style.
It's not just the stats of these two top laners, it's the intangibles that they're bringing. You know, Marn stealing a Baron with Scion, literally ulting into the back of the Baron pit and then grabbing it with the decimating smash. Or FLICKR and how his TPs have defined the team. Although, as I say that, we may actually get some play early on down the bottom.
Yeah, SOFM looking for the dive. He's going to follow it up with Boudier. Choo-Choo tries to leap around. He goes low. First blood to Crystal. Already SOFM is backing out of this as there's nothing Cat can do. XX shows up with the undertow but misses the follow-up. Still 2v4. Goong is on the side, but oh man, there goes the shield of Durant to zone away TOP. You can see Guogo continuing to back this out. Goong is wishing he had items, but has to hop over the wall to escape.
Operation Save SOFM. Get him out from behind the backline. Beautifully executed from Snake. A very early dive to make potential use of the Alistar. Should be noted that SOFM started the top side of the map, allowing Varus and Ali to get to the lane very early on. It is a melee versus melee support matchup, so they were very easy to get control over the wave and set up that potential dive.
Looks like we do have a quick pause as Snake with a swift and efficient first blood. That Lee Sin is starting to make a bit of sense because he just raced through the jungle and went almost immediately to that Tribush.
Likewise, his initial clear is not going to be adjusted pretty much at all by the 8.4 changes because he wouldn't have access to Tracker's Knife anyway. Yeah. So makes sense that SOFM would continue to flex and showcase why that is such a coveted pick for him. Also, you have people like Levi. Levi is running rampant on Lee Sin right now in the 8.4. His solo queue record is disgusting. I believe he has something close to like a 90% win rate in Challenger on North America with Lee Sin alone. So Levi, SOFM, peas in a pod, both from the same region, trained under the same coach, and still showcasing that this champion is A-OK on 8.4.
Absolutely. The style more than working out for them, at least for that first blood. And Snake already perhaps trying to flex onto TOP. When we talk about the team finding success, it's when they can snowball momentum and tempo. And if they have just the tiniest of roadblocks in front of them, preventing them from gaining that tempo, it becomes so much harder for them to climb back up what is already a very steep hill for the team.
And the key that's really been missing for them in that momentum is Guoguo. And that's what I really want to point out. Yes, it was SOFM and Hootie teaming up, making that dive happen for them, but Guoguo making the rotation, having the priority, and then escorting SOFM out into safety. That's normally what we don't see. Usually it's just, how does SOFM plug into XY lane? Now it's the lanes also plugging into SOFM.
Yeah, and with that freedom Snake have shown this year, at least in 2018, they look very formidable. You know, we've only seen them drop to Invictus Gaming. We've only seen them drop to FPX for their very first game of the year. And I think at this point, it's pretty safe to chalk it up to that first game venue curse, where every time a team opens up a new venue for themselves, they have to give up that first game.
We say that, Dom, and I want to get all aboard the Snake train. I've been so excited about this team since 2015, since they took down EDG in their first ever domestic match. But it always comes time for playoffs, and Snake always choke. Whether it's issues with champion pool or inexperience, you know, something has always plagued them right before the finish line. And so I can't get on the Snake hype train until I see them actually have success in playoffs.
Can't believe it until you see it with your own two eyes. Well, Snake might be looking to do that here, as is the rest of Chongqing cheering on for their team, as FLICKR just continues to catch all of this CS. 300 games, 9th in the LPL, right there with Snake. So that speaks to how core to the team this top laner is.
You look at all of the members, it's only Crystal and FLICKR that are the consistent members since 2015. And Crystal seeing some of the bench, whereas FLICKR has never been changed out, often recognized as one of the best, if not the best for a period of time, top laner in the LPL. When he came into the LPL in 2015, he was seen as kind of the last, you know, go-going or prodigy of the top laners, finally making his way into professional play. And he had a big slump. 2016, 2017, really rough for FLICKR, but in 2018, we're seeing why he was so renowned in that 2015 hype. The creativity, the dominance, the versatility of styles. FLICKR has it all.
And this time, we're going to be seeing him once again go for a gold-focused style. Of course, taking that unsealed spellbook as his standard, using teleport to get back in the lane, but still looking for that Frost Fang for standard sustain. So this should help him contribute towards that massive CS per minute that he's so good at, and the damage per minute later on.
And there was a lot of discussion that when the Frost Fang was adjusted to not have Spooky Ghost anymore, that it would hurt Vladimir's itemization and we might see a change. On 8.4, now that Tracker's Knife has been eliminated and there's less vision overall across the map, I actually really like going the Frost Fang, upgrading it into the warding item, and then supplying a bit more vision or compensating for not having that access to the jungle.
Especially when your jungler's name starts and ends with SOFM. You don't ward to keep yourself safe for ganks. You ward so that SOFM is free to invade the enemy jungle. At least that seems to be Snake's MO. As already you can see the Oblivion Orb from Marin going for that flat magic penetration, but already Flandre well aware of Rumble Styles, taking the Null Magic Mantle as XX is set to pass over this blue buff here.
Yeah, looking for the new Morellos, the itemization specifically to slow down a champion like Vladimir and start hurting, having that grievous wound, as well as the magic penetration applied to him.
Definitely a very strong ability if you can lock it down, but right now we can see SOFM meeting with Marin in the in the river. They're not doing too much as Guoguo and Gung just hang out and trade minions in the mid lane. Blue buff now going to be passed over towards Guoguo as XX is actually going to take over to level 6 first. So interesting to see how this Lee Sin is going to continue to play out for the likes of Snake.
The next big window will be when SOFM gets level 6. You can already see that XX has his ultimate available. I'm assuming that after Gromp is completed that SOFM will also be level 6, and that's going to be the big trigger or the go button for Snake to look to make another play. They have access to either lane if they want to utilize the Galio Lee Sin bottom, or if they want to try to punish Marn up into the top side and join Flandre. I think it's pretty much going to depend on where the lanes are set up and who has what back.
Well, for now, not too many big items for just about anyone. Of course, the Tiamat for SOFM, and then the double Doran's Ring Ruby Crystal plus blue buff for Guoguo, and Pickaxe double dagger for Crystal. On the opposite side, no big items that anyone really has to worry about out of TOP, as it is just the Fiendish Codex and the Chilling Smite out of XX.
And the nature of TOP's composition is, again, you're looking for those bridge points from mid to late game, but they don't really have a lot of options for the early game, so it's expected that Snake would be 1-0 at this point. You know, they have the Lee Sin, they have the options, hard CC available into the side lanes, whereas Azir Tristana, they just want to farm it up. Olaf would be initially low on his first clear, so he needs to wait until he gets more items so he can get stronger, get healthier, and look for more successful ganks. So this is all as expected to TOP. Naturally losing first blood, not great, but expected.
Ooh, flashed use by Cat as Chocho had to recall and pick himself up a BF sword. You can see he's 20 CS down, and that wave is pushing away from him. And that is definitely not the place you want to be, especially when your name starts with Tristana. As Flandre actually just used the Sanguine Pool to try to clear out that wave, as Marin getting backdoor, dropping that Blast Plant, so just playing a very aggressive laning phase against the likes of Flandre, perhaps trying to assert some mechanical dominance. That said, SOFM's using that time to clear out an early Infernal.
And the fact that Cat doesn't have his flash, that his bot lane has kill pressure there, means that he's safe to do this, and if he doesn't feel safe, just quickly zip him back over the wall.
And he's waiting for the charge.
There he goes.
Finally gets it over the wall. Oh, the tragedy of having to manage trinkets instead of the Tracker's Knife. Still, though, it is a defensive line out of Snake, though. They seem to be anticipating some play bottom. They know Cat has no flash. This is almost near perfect timing. XX is going to collapse onto Crystal. He's knocked up and back out. He turns around as Guoguo enters the fight. A kick knocks Cat under the turret, and it's almost a solo kill from SOFM as Crystal follows up. He doesn't have the piercing arrow, and XX is going to escape, but Hootie is on the hunt. Oh man, decides to let him go. Still 2-0 for Snake.
And the trap set up from Snake, the fact that the Infernal Dragon had just been taken, very curious for TOP to think that they could go for a play there. Maybe they just thought that if it was a straight 3v3 that they would be fine. You know, Olaf comes down because they know that SOFM is on that side of the map when the Infernal goes down.
A bit of trading in the mid lane as Marin shows up, still holding on to the equalizer as Guoguo is running back. He doesn't have flash. He's dead. Burning down, even saving the ultimate. Goong is the one who's gifted the kill.
And unfortunately, it's not Marin that has it. Yes, I like it on the Azir, but I feel for the responsibility of TOP, I would rather have it on their new star in Marin, just because he can be that much more impactful on the Rumble. And he's already trying to punish Flandre with rotating mid and helping out his mid laner and Goon. It does mean that Flandre gets a bit of a breath up into that top lane, and you can start to see the CS swinging slightly back in his favor. He was close to 15 down before Marin made that roam.
Yeah, it's only just about 10 now, so about a single minion wave for Flandre to catch himself up. But still, Snake, they are looking very strong in this laning phase, aside from Flandre suffering in that top lane. 2 ganks bottom from SOFM, timed with Gogo's level 7 ultimate.
But that's never been Snake's problem. They've always looked good in lane phase. It's that transition into the mid lane, and specifically it's been how Gogo has been setting up into that. With a champion like Galio, it should actually band-aid a lot of those problems, because it's much harder for Gogo to be out of position when he can quickly use his ultimate to reposition himself to where he should be.
Of course, those roaming champions so very fond of, Gogo is so very fond of taking them in that mid lane, as SOFM just invades nearly all the time. If ever there was a champion that would be paired well with him, it's something that can catch up. Ryze, Taliyah, Galio. That does contribute perhaps a bit to why we see those champions so prevalently here in the meta, but right now Snake, with the momentum of the fans, they take the first 2 kills. Minor mistake from Gogo in the mid lane allows TOP to catch up just a bit, but they still have a long way to go if they want to scale to late game.
Again, it's always kind of that inexperience showing from Gogo, a bit of the greenness there. This is his first split in the LPL. So trying to shake off some of those jitters, especially when he's looking across of someone like a veteran like Goon.
Yep. And of course, when you compare that with other Gallios in the likes of the professional league, Xie's Galio is something to be terrified. Bing even showing a great Galio performance a few weeks ago, and just taking the safer Galio approach, going nice and tanky. My job is to stand in front of my team and let my carries do the work. That's the trust fall.
Especially when you have 3 sources of damage coming out of Lee Sin, Vladimir, as well as Varus there.
Yeah.
Now, the big power spikes that we're going to be looking towards are, of course, going to be when Varus completes his Rage Blade and has that 2-item power spike, and that's going to be the flip to switch for Snake, whereas, again, TOP are really reliant on Marin, and if Marin is dragged out into a side lane, if he's not able to group up with his team effectively, because he's having to deal with Flandre running rampant into a side lane, that means that the rest of TOP are really going to suffer until, 20, 25, 30 minutes into the game when they finally have competent itemization on Azir and Tristana.
Yeah, that said though, we do still see Marin controlling the top lane for the time being. He's keeping, Marin keeping Flandre locked in that top lane. He even got the first roam and is maintaining a CS advantage. Is this expected to continue over the course of the matchup?
It really depends on where Flandre is going to start itemizing. I feel like it's going to neutralize itself as Vladimir gets more points in his queue and he's just able to constantly sustain up.
Yeah.
I mean, the nice thing for Rumble is that
eventually he gets the Morellos, and Grievous Wound applies at all damage ticks.
Yeah, is the Morellos, as well as the fact that he doesn't have to deal with also being reliant on mana, since he's a, what is it? It's not energy, fury.
Scrap metal? Scrap? I think it, or heat.
Some random thing that our game designers decided was a good idea to name it.
Of course, the robot is powered off of fury and rage.
That's how I power my car.
His drill.
I pull up to the gas station, I'm like, give me some fury. I wasn't feeling the road rage this morning.
Especially when you're going through rush hour. That's what really gets the engine going. But that being said, still Marin dominating the top lane so far, despite showing inferior individual stats. Taking the likes of this legacy Rumble in this composition for his team, perhaps he could try to be the mid-game bridge, because so frequently I think back to old metas in League where Rumble was played just about every single game, and it was all about the equalizer on the Dragon, equalizer on the Baron. Well, neutral objectives are just as important now, especially after 20 minutes.
Yeah, and it's not just the monster objectives that TOP's composition can play around with that Rumble, it's a sieging composition. The fact that they have Tristana, Azir, and Rumble, anytime that comp gets tempo advantage, rocks up to a tower, and then lays down all of their abilities, Snake would either be forced to, we fight this, or we cede the tower. And that's what TOP want to put Snake into a position. They want to kind of survive their initial power spikes, get more towards, instead of the second itemization window, the third itemization window, and then get the Baron, start walking over to these structures and forcing Snake to make tough decisions.
And that said, though, it's almost comical to see TOP playing a style that they themselves are so weak at counteracting against. If anything has ever been a weakness for the team, it's their lack of an ability to make a decision when presented with 2 difficult choices, often losing both outcomes in that situation. So it seems that they have identified their weaknesses, and now instead of perhaps addressing them, they are trying to use them against their opponents. And I think that's actually kind of funny, because that comes back to the play style of the LPL in general, where we don't play to reduce mistakes. We play to make you make more mistakes.
I once said this long ago that the primary difference between the Korean and LPL play. So of course there's going to be your outlier teams. In the LPL we used to have like, you know, Vici Gaming, and the LCK you had like the KT Arrows or Longzhu probably most recently, the very aggressive teams. Is this idea that the Korean play style was to play incredibly defensive and then wait for someone to make a mistake and then capitalize on it. And you cannot break them. The LPL wanted to play incredibly aggressive to force mistakes and then capitalize on them. Now the burning factor then is that the LPL are incredibly good at snowballing, but they're also incredibly detrimental to themselves. If they're trying to force these mistakes, they themselves will make mistakes, and then the LCK over there is just going to quickly pull the rug out from underneath them.
And this is where we look to the likes of teams like WE, who are capable of losing gracefully, who if they find themselves playing against an opponent who does have an advantage, the game does not immediately snowball out of control. While TOP do not quite have the confidence in order to perform something like this, it is now up to Snake to try to make sure that happens.
All I want to say is we just got back into game. It was a computer reset. I want that computer. That was the fastest reboot I've ever seen.
The power of an SSD in 2018. Immediately right back in. Oh man, yeah, you're right. That was pretty quick.
Ah, yeah.
If I could do that in my rank games, that would be spectacular.
Producer was like, it's probably going to be 5 minutes. 30 seconds later, we're in game. I was like,
we
damn.
are in. That boot time, holy cow. Just skip the BIOS, the tests and all of that. But anyways, SOFM fighting over Scuttle Crab with XX and Gung. Now blue buff is back up on respawn, so that's why you can see XX is about to pass that over. It's going to be a few moments before SOFM and Guogo's blue buff respawns. Already though, you can see Flandre pushing in that top half of the map, and while he doesn't have teleport, could use that as an opportunity to try to flex down and make something happen at the Herald, perhaps?
There's actually more of an opportunity for TOP at this moment, not necessarily Snake. Snake are eventually going to move Guogo and Sofum over to pick up his own blue buff. Flandre doesn't have TP where Marin does, so TOP actually have this really big window where they're going to have mid lane priority. They know that Snake will be on the top side of the map. They have TP, so they know that they can put themselves in a 4v5. Play bottom.
That's the not-so-subtle hint that FLICKR trying to give here as TOP Gung is going to push up in the mid lane. A quick recall from Guogo means Abyssal Mask is completed. Warrior's not quite done for SOFM, but he's getting darn close as Hoodie is going to roam around. He takes his Mobies, but tragically not watching his map, watching his mini-map instead, and gets spotted out by a zombie ward, so isn't able to show up behind Gung. We still do have some big item recalls completed. Still no Morellos for the likes of Marin. And just a slow start to this game outside of those early kills.
And we could talk about that potential play that TOP had, that window to play bottom with all of the advantages that I was talking about, and showcasing the decision that they made instead. So this is team saying, we could make an offensive decision, we could look for a play onto the bottom lane. Instead, we're going to use this window to back, reset mentality, reset, grab other itemizations, grab our health, and then just try to neutralize the lane. So TOP is playing this very safe, not trying to force anything, and instead just sitting back on their composition and saying, it's fine. We don't need to be proactive right now.
Yeah. That said, though, the next dragon is about to spawn in 80 seconds, and it is a second Infernal on the likes of a Varus, Lee Sin, Vladimir comp, and I'm sure the Azir and Tristana Rumble are looking at that Infernal with hungry eyes.
Everyone wants it.
But already we can see Snake moving in, starting to set up some vision with that already completed quest from Hoodie. He does have 2 control wards and biscuit delivery, so he's going to be at full health for quite a while as Sofum timing that push along with him. Flandre now has his teleport too, and he's just sitting on base. Swaps over Flash for another spell, and teleport completed as well.
Yeah, getting rid of his heal. He was running heal teleport up there because of the safety of the W, the Stingwing pool available to him. And this is actually just better backtimers from Snake right now. The fact that Hoodie got to the area first, was able to sweep it out, and then create a road map or a, what do you call it? You call it a freeway? A runway?
Highway?
Highway, that one.
That's the one.
A highway for SOFM to invade and start pressing his vision, not just neutrally, but offensively to open up this Infernal.
Ooh. SOFM dashes forward and scares XX into using his ultimate. Guogo ganking bottom. Hoodie goes in. You can see Cat is low. Piercing arrow not going to be used as TOP disengage. You can hear the crowd is getting a little bit antsy with how this game is starting to build up and diffuse.
Just back and forth. I feel like I'm playing red light, green light right now with Snake. But that is going to be a lot of flashes and a lot of health picked off of TOP, as well as key ultimates, particularly XX not having that access to the back line because he's unable to disable the CC now. We'll see if Snake think that's enough to turn towards the Infernal, because they're obviously feeling very strong to try to force fights like that.
They do have some pretty big item breakpoints, and like we said, both of those top laners holding on to teleport. I don't believe Marin is level 11, so he might just have the level 1 equalizer, but we'll find out as soon as we get back in. There's still a lot of potential for TOP to try to fight it back out, but it is going to be a difficult challenge without the likes of that ultimate and missing the flash of Cat. If he goes in, there's no coming back out.
Yeah, but that's kind of the nature of Leona. I feel like when you're a Leona player, you've already kind of
committed to that.
Yeah, you've resigned
just
yourself
like the
to
Leona.
that fate.
Yeah. There's no doubling back out on that champion.
The issue is also missing that ultimate. So you have Olaf and Leona ultimate down. On the other side, you have, I believe, the Galio ultimate missing.
We did just get a quick update, as once again we are seeing some slight technical issues in the Chongqing Arena. Hopefully we will be getting those resolved as quickly as possible. We were talking about the boot time. Now we got to test it once again. Everyone get your stopwatches ready.
Yeah, that's fine, because you guys get to hang out with us. And likewise, we don't just have this exciting series going on. Reminder that our match of the week, EDG versus RNG, is coming up after this set. We will be starting it on time.
7 o'clock.
And this will be the only time that EDG and RNG will get to face unless they meet in playoffs. Possibly a preview of the final, if history tells us anything.
Well, hey, I mean, RNG have been to the last 3, so with their current track record, it's looking good for them. Of course, they actually have to make it that far, though. But still, that is going to be happening at 7 p.m. CST later this evening in 80 minutes. So we have to hope that TOP and Snake hurry up and finish their set.
Where's the bloodthirst?
Yeah.
And then likewise, if EDG and RNG want to make it towards that final, they have to go through Snake and Invictus Gaming, who are still sitting top of the standings.
And then you've got to consider other teams like Rogue Warriors, who have really found some new momentum. This team of seemingly underdogs, players who have been abandoned by other bigger, better names, come together, create their own brand, and now they are the ones who are winning.
It's almost kind of the death of an era in the LPL in a sense, you know, with Team WE sliding backwards, with EDG kind of middle of the pack, RNG slowly fighting their way back to relevance on the standings with the return of Uzi. It has been the Rogue Warriors, the Invictus Gamings, the Snakes of the LPL that have truly started off on the right foot, sprinting towards that finish line.
Could we be seeing some new international protagonists for the LPL? At this point, only time will tell, because things are very interesting here in Shanghai and all of our other arenas.
The only team to appear internationally for the LPL that wasn't the likes of a pillar, so an EDG, an RNG, WE, IG, and LGD,
was Aimee.
Xiaogu.
Hey, oh yeah, you're right.
I mean, Aimee tagged on as like the 3rd place representative, but Xiaogu were also the ESL representatives after going to that final against LGE.
A bit of a tragedy to see that team fall apart, but still, the heart and soul of it lives on. Doinby now with Rogue Warriors, perhaps looking to reclaim that glory with his team. As you can see, the fans in the arena of Chongqing still quite proud and happy for their team to try to get themselves back into this game. I did recognize the character Hao, which means very good.
Henhao.
So
I wonder if you could say
on the
I
Snake
love
side.
Snake would be Wo-I Snake?
Wo-I Snake?
Wo-I Snake?
Yeah. Wo-I Chongqing. We're just getting confirmation from our bilingual producer in here that we did say that correctly. But
nailed it.
Yeah, still though, the energy in that arena has got to be so exciting. Of course, that being said, as we get closer and closer to spring and things start to warm up, things should become a lot more temperate in Chongqing, and perhaps that could change Snake's fortunes.
Yeah, that was the joke that we've been making around the office, is that I guess Chongqing's arena is really cold?
Yes, so it is in a large exhibition arena, and it does not have heaters. So very large, thin metal walls means that it's very cold. And under the player booths, you can see they've got like large electric heaters to warm up the players' legs.
Even see on Flandre's desk when the camera goes back to him, you can notice a white box that's sitting on top of his, or near his keyboard. I'm also assuming that's probably a heater.
Yep. So the Snake have a predisposed advantage in their own arena. They have been conditioned by the harder weather
Acclimated
conditions.
to the weather.
Yeah. Which is quite hilarious.
I was molded in this cold. My reflexes will never be touched.
Which is quite funny, because we joke about the fact that if we send them internationally, Will they be able to survive in a different climate? Snakes are warm-blooded after all.
It's no longer winter is coming, it's spring is coming to thaw out the rest of the competition.
Snake are like, no, please keep it cold. They turn the air conditioning on and try to keep the venue nice and chill. But of course, on the other side, TOP visiting Chengdu, and now in the likes of Chongqing, they are making their circuit, making the rounds.
Yeah, and TOP have had much better success coming into cross-conference. A lot of that has been on the shoulders of Marin's arrival onto the team. Again, guys, apologies for the wait. We're simply waiting for a computer to be
swapped out. We've got another one coming. All we need to do is plug it in and turn it on.
Where's that boot time? SOFM's like any minute now.
The SSD SOFM is like, I could clear the entire enemy jungler, the entire enemy jungle faster than it takes to clear that out. Do you reckon he actually could? Do you think SOFM could clear out the entire jungle in like record time?
Probably. Again, in my experiences discussing with Tenakun, Tenakun, a friend of the LPL broadcast. He's the coach of the Gigabyte Marines, so former coach of Levi as well as SOFM. He pretty much handcrafted these players. They still talk to him frequently. And it's, you know what? Bigger conversation. I feel real bad for SOFM. The fact that Levi, such an exceptional player, great guy, had several discussions with Levi. He's been nothing but kind. I just wish him all the best in North America. I really hope to see him in the LCS one day. But it's just so unfortunate that Levi got that massive spotlight, that now he has the big international Western following.
He's the name that people recognize.
When SOFM is the OG. This guy is the original gangster coming out of the GPL. He was so young. He tried to play in a tournament when he was 14 years old, and then they had to ban him from competitive for 3 years because he didn't make the age requirements. So SOFM was just destroying Korean solo queue. Just this next great prodigy. And then he disappeared for the longest time simply because he was under the age requirement, had to wait, finally got his chance, and was the first big import to come out of the GPL.
And he's been doing great with the likes of Snake. I mean, we've seen him for so long. We know that he puts in very diligent practice hours, that he's actually capable of speaking both English and Chinese, so he's very, very good.
Fun fact, he uses Reddit.
He does.
Definitely check the username on the person who is posting the SOFM highlights.
Yeah. Do you reckon he just records his own highlights in Spectator and then uploads them? Whoa, this amazing Lee Sin play.
I think it certainly fits his personality.
The very show-offy, in-your-face style jungle. But
yeah, of course his name, SOFM, means style of me. There's a little mini documentary series about him. He's been on the record saying that he understands he is a selfish player. His coach understands it. His teammates understand it. His mentality is get me ahead first, and then I will get you ahead.
And that creates an interesting conversation because as a coach, as a professional organization in League of Legends in 2018, it's no longer an individual game. It's not like 2013 where one person can just win the match. But seeing how Snake have evolved to play around this and utilize SOFM's greediness and aggression to turn themselves collectively into a team.
And again, his 3 most played champions of 2018 so far are actually Jarvan, Sejuani, and Zac. So not like the Kazakhs that you would expect him to play in. Of course, this time around, he's on the signature Lee Sin.
Yeah.
But the MO for SOFM in 2018 has been a very team-oriented player.
It certainly has. We'll have to see if this continues for him, as now Infernal Dragon is picked up by Snake as we make our way back into this game. Already you can see Gung using a brief window of opportunity to push up in the mid lane and get just a bit of chip damage onto that mid tier 1 turret down to about half health. And as it looks, Snake now 2 Infernal Dragons, a full 1,300 gold ahead of TOP, are set to scale themselves.
And check out that next dragon. That's going to be a triple Infernal.
Boy.
On 8.4, this is going to be absolutely devastating for, I believe, second Elder. I believe first one still just gives the same stats.
50% bonus.
Yeah, but then on second one, if your team acquires the first one,
100%.
Ridiculous.
It's real big. Flandre, ooh, times the Grievous Wounds, flashes in, looking for the solo kill on Namarin, but XX comes to spoil the 1v1. Teleport from Guoguo to get in there. Flandre is thinking about following up, but decides not to. As look who's even still here. SOFM on the side, waits for the minion wave. Flandre tries to pull the aggro. He's got the Tiamat and XX body blocks, but oh, Flandre steps in with the stopwatch, with the play. SOFM styles 1v2.
Okay, well done from Snake, but I'm going to say that Flandre actually played that slightly incorrect. He should have grabbed the tower aggro and then held it for Sofum and then used the stopwatch to drop it. Instead, the stopwatch comes out a little bit early. He could have also juggled with the Sanguine Pool on his W, and Sofum ends up taking majority of the aggro and then trades. Still advantageous trade for Snake because they pick up 2 kills. Could have been played a little bit better. I expect better.
Yeah, here it is. You can see that Sonic Wave once again. Flandre starts in Sofum. Oh, he's holding aggro the whole time.
Yeah, but the reposition there from Sofum was so beautiful. Make sure that he gets on the other side. He taps both members with the E.
And of course, that is without the Tracker's Knife. Sofum is still doing some huge work on this Lee Sin. 2-1 and 2. Again, we talk about the backbones for a team. Sofum is definitely that for the likes of Snake. And now they have to try to continue to close this game out over TOP, as now it's Marin who finds himself suffering a death for his team. I love how, in typical Sofum style, he appears on the map for just a second and then immediately disappears to race through his own jungle.
Raptor camp.
That's the very indicative of that. That's actually first brick as well in that top lane, taken by Flandre, so solo gold going to the Vladimir.
Yeah, and it was Snake feeling the pressure that Azir had applied onto the mid lane, not willing to give up first brick, so then very quickly making the call to say, we're going to force this down, we're going to gank the teleport so it can't be used on the opposite side of the map. We have information where the enemy jungler is, and take first brick instead. Now there's access to play around the bottom side, because both teleports are up, and Flandre's that much farther ahead.
Now that is a very big Vladimir, very early Eye of the Watchers, and now the completed Zanya's Hourglass. He's going to go in and buy so much time for his team. Whereas on the other side, still only the Morellos and hunting guys for Marin as he looks to be building that, Leandries. And we're starting to get closer and closer to some big item breakpoints for the likes of Snake. You can see the Gwinsu's finished off for Crystal as there's an engage, kick, and Goong didn't stand a chance there. That was tragic.
And that was Snake having a read on which shards Goon had available. Again, he started this match with the cleanse, has the unsealed spellbook, has now traded it towards the teleport, and instead of going bottom, Snake just saying, there's no way he can get out of this flash.
And just like that, Goong finds himself in the graveyard. He's going to be respawning shortly, but already the roam bottom.
Yep, and here we go. And this is the play that I was expecting. It's going to roll over from the mid lane, punish the cleanseless Azir. Now you can see Galio and Lee Sin just hunting in response to appear like, eject, run mid, we've got to trade towers. And this is forcing now Snake to say, okay, that's fine. We'll just take the bottom tower for free.
Guoguo's still holding on, though. We'll be able to clear out most of these minions with Winds of War, but the bottom tier one's already taken.
And Flandre, I thought he was actually going to be rotating down mid lane to help Guoguo hold that mid-tier tower, but he actually started the Rift Herald, and in response, instead of TOP pressuring forward and taking mid, they rotate up to him.
And this is exactly what we were talking about. When forced with two difficult decisions, TOP often struggle to decide, and they end up missing out on both. Mid is still standing for another minion wave, and Rift Herald is still up. Oh no! Flandre accidentally dodging the blue buff there.
TOP, quick, rush the tower!
Brief window of opportunity as Houdier is actually going to find the engage here, manages to land the stun as Guoguo dodges in, and they are able to save the turret for another minion wave.
They botched the blue buff handoff, and they still managed to save the tower. Galio is the perfect band-aid to Guoguo.
Solves all of Snake's problems, though. Sofem is going to be swept back in. He doesn't have flash. Did he still get around the wall? That's amazing. He takes too much damage, though, and still dies, but impressive nonetheless.
Yeah, he connected the first part of his Q, was then pushed back, and then activated it to get on the other side of the, or to get around the wall there.
Still, though, that is now another kill on the board for TOP. They're able to find a pick onto SOFM as they're actually putting a lot of vision on this bottom side of the map, and with great timing too. Infernal, the third Infernal, is up in 50 seconds, and SOFM is going to have to race out of base if he wants to try to get there.
And this is the turning point for Snake. The fact that they need to crack this mid lane tower, and they're trying to do it into an Azir or a Tristana, whoever is going to take the shift there and cover that middle lane. So we'll see if Snake start utilizing their ability to run a 1-3-1 with Vladimir and Galio, pivoting around side lanes, making picks in the jungle, and then swapping that into the mid lane tower, or if they're just going to wait for this Infernal to spawn in 22 seconds, force a team fight because TOP have pressure on them that they need to contest this Infernal, that they can't give away 3 for free, and then just turn that team fight into the mid lane tower.
And look at this. We can see already an emergency ping from Snake. They thought to themselves, okay, we're so focused on the Infernal, we forgot about the Baron. Quick blue trinket spots it. They lose the top tier 1 as Goong is pushing, but that's a lot of the wave clear gone. Tristana is still too low level to defend the mid-tier 1. It is broken, and already Guoguo is on the Infernal.
They're just getting everything. The threat of Snake diving with Alistar is enough for them to just back off mid and let it go.
Now, we did see teleport from Goong. He got in. Flandre drops himself down. That's the
Red
equalizer
carpet.
on the exit to the pit. Flandre goes low and dies in the meanwhile, but Infernal has been picked up. Guoguo dives in. Emperor's Divide completely misses, and look at the follow-up. Houdia joins in. Marin finally gets into the fight. Crystal flashes away to get away, but he flashes into the Azir and goes down. Houdia running now for his life and gives another reset to TOP.
That's the thing, and now TP have the option. They could go for the Baron. It is just spawned, 22 minutes in the game. Their jungler is still alive, and they have massive damage output from both Azir and Tristana. This could be the one team fight that swing them back into the game.
We
But
immediately teleport from Guoguo.
Sofum also still alive.
XX racing over to try and pick up some honey fruit and heal up, but the Baron is burning down. Triple Infernal. Guoguo just walks in. Look at the damage that he's going to be trying to apply here. Has to turn around and back away with the knockup. Jojo, two-man taunt. SOFM kills one. Smite early from XX to survive, as that's Guoguo going down.
Eject!
Oh boy, Snake, call the bluff and manage to prevent TOP from snowballing their way back into the game.
And that means any momentum that TOP really picked up in that fight has now been completely reversed, as Snake also have access to placing down the vision, clearing it all out, and then all of these extra waves have been stacked up. Taking another look at that team fight, all credit to Guoguo. He's been a phenomenal Galio player so far. He able to get on top of Vladimir's dead body, and then connects to knock up on 3 people, shifts back, and finds the taunt on 2.
And the further chase, Marin joins the fight. Crystal tries to escape, but just too much damage from that rumble.
Yeah, Marn showcasing. He's got 2 points in the ultimate, level 14, so not the 3rd point just yet, but still a phenomenal Marin player. Rumble player, synonymous.
What's the difference at this point? Now, XX is going to try to prevent some vision invasion out of Snake. Wards, very, very important, but Snake have got an excess of them as they even try to steal away the blue buff. Flandre is going to take it. SOFM probably not too happy about that. You can see them talking in chat on the bottom of the screen there. But still, it is complete control over that jungle side of the map. And could they be starting the Baron right now? It looks like they are.
And it's because Marn appeared into the bottom side. He doesn't have TP, so Rumble is going to have to walk all the way back up, and Rumble is the #1 champion alongside Azir to stop this.
Guoguo zoning away from the entrance to the river in that pixel brush. TOP are forced to pull back and try to reset their position, as once again XX just trying to fight over this vision, reclaim some semblance of control. But still, Snake are brutal and ruthless in how they're clearing these wards out.
It's also about how they want to attack the map. Do Snake want to continue to play around this Baron, look for the pick with the Alistar, with the Varus, with the Lee Sin, or are they going to try to brute force up to a tower? Not as weak as the inner structures that they did in mid lane, but it looks like it's going to be the Baron call.
Yeah, Goong is there now. Still, they don't see it. That's going to be the entrance over the wall as they decide to take the fight instead. Cat is the target as he engaged too far forward and dies. So that's the support down, 5 versus 4.
And again, Cat not on the same page for TOP. They don't need to all-in engage, they just need to dissuade. So a lot of that responsibility is on Goong with the Azir, and then if Tristana can get in safely. Again, now Mar walking across map to try to participate, but there's Flandre.
Yeah, drops the Hemoplague, nearly kills Chocho with the red buff that he stole. Houdia over the wall, assassinates Goong, and flash from XX to escape. SOFM is looking for it. He's thinking about it, smells blood in the water, but doesn't fire off that Sonic Wave because it's much more important to get himself back into the pit and back onto the Baron.
And more importantly, it's the fact that XX expended his flash to disengage from that. He doesn't have it available. This is Marn against the world.
He's still up. He's got the equalizer. They all know. Lays it on top of the Baron, but Smite allows SOFM to secure it. Sun follows up, and Guoguo lets Marn off with a warning. But finally, the play pays off. Snake take Baron.
And they also do it on a composition which is spiking very heavily right now. Completed itemization on 2 of their big members, the Galio as well as the Varus. Flandre has been an absolute terror out into the side lane, and now has Baron to boot.
And now, suddenly, Snake's composition is that much more terrifying. Banner of Command right on time for Houdia with all that extra gold. Baron buff for another 3 minutes. This siege is going to be really scary for TOP.
But the thing is, if TOP's composition survives this siege, they still have a great scaling potential to win this game. And they also have great wave clear access. So I say if you're TOP, just clear what you can, maybe give up 2 structures, but don't look to overextend for a fight. Because if you lose here with the Baron buff, with the triple Infernal, and with the Banner of Command, your base will be decimated.
So where do we draw the line for TOP? Already we see the minion wave coming in mid, wards placed around the side, FLICKR up top. Is it the inhib line? Is it just the tier 2s?
It really depends on the preparation that Snake play. You can already see that FLICKR is setting up the top lane wave while they're trying to pressure the mid lane wave. And so, depending on how quickly they're able to rotate, if TOP find themselves a little bit slow on the rotation, it may mean give up an inhib. If they're on or in position, it may just be the outer ring.
Now we do see the top tier 2 has been broken. There's not a lot that can really kill that Bannon minion.
Nope, Thomas the Tank.
Thomas the Tank minion. Just barging down through the base of TOP. Already the wave is being cleared out so quick. You can see Cat on the side. Recall from Marin gets him back. But that cannon, oh, stepping up very far. XX walks forward with the smite. They might be able to clear it. It's even aggroing onto Goong. And the turret takes aggro on to Thomas the Tank, and it goes down.
All I'm saying is that Secret Service goon over there, he saw the little red dot, and he just took a bullet for his team.
Still though, Snake, no slouch on their side lanes. They've continued to prep the wave mid and break down another tier 2. Like we said, that's 2 structures so far. This is where we look at TOP to defend, but Snake immediately press forward. Who needs a Thomas the Tank when you've got your own 5-man squad rushing it?
But here comes Marn, so they could look to engage in a fight here.
Already just that Baron cannon is enough to break it down. The middle inhibitor is now down. The map has been opened up quite a bit for Snake, but they still need to do just a bit more to further cement their lead and make closing out the game that much easier.
Oh, are we gonna get greedy here? I don't think we need it. Snake, you just got a lot of global gold. You should back, spin that gold, continue to amplify and snowball your lead and look towards the bottom lane.
That's where we see 4 members of Snake rushing right now. That Cloud Dragon has spawned, so 4 Elemental Dragons could be on the ticket for Snake if they decide to clear that one out. But with that, Snake now find themselves 7,000 gold ahead, 28 minutes in. Not an insurmountable sum of gold, but something TOP will have to try to hurdle over in this next fight. It's going to take some pretty good ability usage from TOP to get out of this, as Cat is caught warding and dies to FLICKR. That's not what I had in mind.
Unfortunately, this is a signature from Cat. He is incredibly aggressive, likes to make the plays, likes to come flying out of bushes and, you know,
from surprising positions,
terrifying people, but he's often alone, and now he's been called out.
He certainly has, and that will be another dead for TOP, as another banner minion has been placed by Hujie. That's actually the Predator used.
The Tank, Dom.
It is still technically a banner minion. As Snake now push up, Thomas tragically returns back to the graveyard. FLICKR dives in. They're going to try to end the game right here, right now. That's going to be the hero's entrance right on top of the wall, but he's just fine. Without the minions, they still finish it off. The inhibitor line broken again as SOFM walks out of this, still is able to walk away with his life. As TOP doing some big damage. Solar Flare only slows Guoguo. As Marin pushes them away. Nobody dies, but it was darn close. 2
inhibs down. It means that Snake have the option now to just 5-man stack into the top lane, force down the last remaining inhib, and if they really want to have a clean game, then wait for second rotation of Baron and clear this one out. TOP, their best option at this point. Yeah, they've got 2 open waves where they can continue to farm, try to get that item breakpoint. You can see that Tristana finally has 3 completed items. The last 2 previous fights, she didn't have that available, so she will hit significantly harder now. It's a question of, is it enough at this point?
We know Chocho can pop off. We've already talked about the aggressiveness of Cat. If TOP can find Snake exposing a weakness, any sort of vital artery that they can try to break open in the composition, looking for a pick onto SOFM, for example,
yeah,
they could try.
Quickly touching on Cat, I also want to point out his itemization. 0, 4, and 2, he hasn't had a great time on Leona. You can see that there is a significant gold difference just between him and Alistar alone. Has finally completed his locket. And that's a big deal when you're facing someone like Varus as well as Vladimir, who do have that kind of big spell-flinging burst damage that can pop out.
We'll have to see if Cat can find himself in the right place to use that shield, and who he will choose to protect, knowing that there are 3 very high damage sources. 3 items finished on Marin: Void Staff, Morellinomicon, and the Leandri. So there's Shred, Flat Penetration, and Percent Penetration. Marin is going to do a lot of damage to just about everyone.
It also means that TOP then have a really strong point to fight around in the Baron Pit. If they can actually safely navigate their way to it and then get the high ground, force Snake to chase into a choke point, which would be those 2 ramps leading up into their red side jungle, Azir, Tristana, and Rumble are going to absolutely devastate a team. But they seem to be on a different page of XX diving in or Cat diving in too deep before the sustained damage, or kind of the, I'm going to call it poke a little bit.
The backline is able to set up?
The whittling is able to get the damage down. The Azir and the Trist. Basically, like, Olaf and Leona are flying in when Snake are all full health.
And take a look at this. TOP, they decide to recall to reset their ward stacks and pick up more control wards. But Snake are right there. It's 30 seconds before the Baron spawns, and look at how lit up that jungle is. Whereas you look at TOP on the other side, the bottom half of the map is completely lit up for TOP. That's not the one that's going to be worried about. As that banner melee minion is just going to push and distract Marin.
That's
actually a good thing for TOP, because now that wave is going to double stack up on that single minion. Marin just has to clear one more, and that's going to slow push for TOP, allowing Marin to group up.
Which is why he moved past it and cleared out the incoming creep wave. But here we go. This is going to burn down really quickly. TOP need to be in position.
Yeah, SOFM already spotted. He's on the backside looking for an opening, but has to be careful for any of the damage. That whittling you were talking about. Hujie ready to flank and force XX and the rest of TOP out of there. Marin teleporting in, but the Baron is down to half. Flandre on the far side, he's going to collapse onto the back, already turning onto Cat, who is once again left to die. Hujie engages onto Chuchu, he leaps over the wall. Guogua follows up for even more damage, blocking them down. SOFM diving to chase, flashes forward, there's the hero's entrance, and single-handedly assassinates Gung, the enemy mid laner. Guogua looking for the flash, but does not quite find it. Chocho dies, Hujie follows into the Baron Pit, and TOP are falling apart at the seams. It's only a matter of time until the rest of them fall, because, ladies and gentlemen, Snake have just closed out this game with an ace.
I don't know who just styled harder there, Guogo, Sofum, or Hudie. The fact that Hudie pretty much 1v1 Marn as well, using the Baron as an assist, was beautiful to watch.
I might have spoken too soon. That was Zanya's, as the inhibitor is going to be broken. Here comes the minion wave. Snake finally make their way up to the turret. Sofum, good guy, taking a few hits to keep those minions further topped up. But like we said, that's game 1, going 34 minutes over to the likes of Snake in Chongqing.
A clinical performance from Snake. Guogo no longer having the issues that he showcased in their series against Invictus Gaming, was always in position. I think Galio is the perfect answer for the newest member of this squad.
Absolutely able to pair up quite easily with his team, those mobile and roaming mid laners, getting them all across the map. And though Gung showed good presence of mind to try to keep up with CS, there was only so much that he could do over the course of that game, because that Azir just takes so long to scale up, whereas Galio, you just stand in the front, soak that damage, especially when you've got SOFM behind you, who's also assassinating the enemy mid laners. But just take a look at that damage. So even from just about everyone on Snake. Everyone contributed.
And then we have to put a magnifying glass over TOP. Their bot lane and their jungle are just not pulling their weight right now. If you want to look at a place that really collapsed in that game, I think you have to start with that conversation.
Chocho not able to really put up some big numbers over the course of that game, though we did see him, I think, return towards something that was a bit more comfort for him. He has played the Tristana before. We know that he likes to pop off late game, but taking a late game gamble against Snake in their home arena is one of the riskiest gambles you can take right now.
I mean, the biggest problem is that TOP are unable to even get to a portion of the game when they get to utilize any sort of team play aspect or setting up plays, simply because they're losing on an individual basis.
Well, now it's up to our analysts to break down what happened in game 1.
Thank you, Dom. And before we continue, we have a couple of announcements to make. The first one is that our match of the week will be starting at 7 PM sharp China local time. So that will be in about an hour from now, which means if Snake and TOP go long, we will be going straight into our match of the week. So we'll not be missing any of that action from that one, but we will have to catch up on Snake and TOP as the action goes. So make sure to stay tuned, because during the match of the week, we'll be catching up on how that series is going. And also, why aren't we calling it the Bruce Banner minion? Because I feel like that minion just hulks out, and that's the perfect name for it. Okay, let's talk about the game, Raz. That's what I had to say.
There we go.
Now,
Public announcement.
Let's go to these compositions. So we saw the Rumble come out. This is our 8.4 Rumble, the first one we've seen in the LPL. Of course, some of the itemization changes are going to help him out in this one.
Yeah, two of them immediately of that come to mind is, of course, the Morella Namicons. He was going up against the Vladimir, so it was so much easier to build that, because the saddest thing if you're a Vladimir is that now you literally have Grievous Wound on you at all times. Not if you're below 40% HP, just if you are just 100% HP. And that was being built in by Azir as well, so that was going to be very difficult for Vladimir if he got into the later portions of the stages. Immediately as well, Leandri's Torment was already a great item for him, but now that we have the ticking damage, get towards extra ability power, I would say 10 stacks to be able to get it for yourself. That is perfect for Rumble. So I love the pick coming in for him. It was just sad that he was set behind so early.
Exactly, because he couldn't really catch up to the Vladimir. Everything really fell apart as well. Before we move on to like composition and win condition and all of that, we also saw the Lee Sin come out. Now, we've pretty much been saying that while this is one of the only regions that really is seeing a lot of Lee Sin play in the LPL, he's essentially dead because 8.4, we don't see the Tracker's Knife anymore. However, he picks it up and still does well with it, because he was actually looking towards, well, I've got a ganking jungler, and ganks are really good in this patch, so I guess I'll go Lee Sin.
Exactly. So if he ever runs into the Olaf early on, then that's sad days, but he wasn't, and he was constantly finding himself into the lane. So I would love to just talk about the fact that he dictated the pace of the early portions of the game, like 4 to 5 minutes. Having the bottom lane gank was exceptional from him, because that had a lot of ways in which it could go wrong. The only resources they had was hoping that he would land the Q to get to execute damage onto the Tristana. He was able to do that even though the minion wave was coming through, even though Leona was trying to block it over. It was like, no, I'm going to ward hop through, find the best place to land the kick, which was in between the turret and the wall. It landed, he got the kill, and he was able to barely get out with the Galio following through.
Right, and that really set up from the bottom lane, and then that kind of just snowballed as well, because there was a bit of RNG in terms of the dragons as well. So you get the first dragon, what's the next one? Inferno. What's the third one?
Inferno.
So it just becomes a massive issue as the game continues, and then eventually Snake just kind of snowballed it out.
That's what's so sad about this one, because yeah, sure, there are scaling elements, but TOP had early game points. There was the Rumble that was a good matchup in the top side of the map. There's the Azir that does quite well, pushing the Galio underneath his turret. Sure, Galio has Resolve Tree, has Bone Plating, can just kind of tank that all up and try to move across the map. But there were early game elements to TOP's lineup. It's that they fell behind. They're like, okay, maybe we can start turtling. But there's no such thing as a turtle when every single time the neutral objective is just Infernal after Infernal. So that's what really was the nail in the coffin. It would have been a little bit more difficult for Snake to kind of push their lead further, just because the Lee Sin does have scaling problems. We even saw him get picked out when he was in the bottom side of the map. So that's one issue that could have kind of skyrocketed going into the later portions of the game. But there was no late game, because they were able to just blow them up.
Exactly, but if we move back towards the middle game as well, like you look towards a pick like Galio, this is the second time that we're seeing, you know, Galio come out into the mid lane. We saw that from JD the other day. And it just works so well when you have this ganking jungler as well. I don't need to win lane. I don't even need to be able to push in my lane. I'll just leave to a different lane and then gank them.
And that's why 8.4 Galio is so much stronger, because the Resolve Tree makes it so hard for the only win condition when you're going up against Galio to even work. Because the win condition has been, okay, we'll pressure Galio, push him out of lane, and then look elsewhere. That has been usually the strategy going up against Talia and Twisted Fate. They are squishy champions, much more successful. Galio, literally just a tank in the mid lane, doesn't have to build too tanky, just can go towards the Abyssal Mask, and that's good enough for him to have as much impact as possible once he hits 6. So really good on him, and he was the major factor of why they were able to get their Baron runs, because Snake is a great team when it comes to them utilizing Barons for fights, and it was so hard for TOP to ever even think about a steal, because sure, Vladimir was looking for flanks, but every single time they would poke their heads out, and then Lee Sin would land a kick, Galio ulti comes through, and that's the fight for Snake.
Yeah, it's the 1-2 punch. So SOFM, you know, had a great setup into the early game, and in fact, he will be our MVP of this one, our man of the match. SOFM picking this one up on his Lee Sin, so doing very well with the pick. 21.3% of the team's damage is actually pretty high as a Lee Sin. He essentially went full damage as well.
Yep. Mr. Lee Sin here, of course, has 93% kill participation. Wherever he went, there was a kill. Someone out there apparently got a kill without him. They're going to be getting a talking to in the back. But he was playing exceptionally that game. We always had that discussion of worries. Of course, 8.4, you can't get your Sightstone wards. You probably have to hold on to the warding trinket to be able to get the playmaking off. He didn't have to face that problem just because of how quick the game went.
Yeah, really great stuff from Snake taking the first game in this matchup. We'll see if they can make it the 2-0 and claim another victim for the Snake Pit, as we are going to take a quick break before we get to that one.